What's up, guys? But back to Steven. So, there's a few people that actually take the template and run with it. And I'm talking about not just picking and choosing, what they like of the team model or don't like, or what they like about ISA stuff, or what they don't like or do like. And so when I look at somebody like what Matt Smith's done, Tierney Jordan, Blake, there's a bunch of you guys, right? A handful of you guys, but to see someone in my own market when I went off and couldn't work in my own hometown, for it was a little over a year, but really it was like 2.5 years before I got started, back rocking in Wichita. And to see him around 30 units a few years ago to well over 300, and you guys are gonna hear what he has to say. And this is what I've been saying in real estate for a long time. The best marketer wins. And it's like, I know a lot of smart, broke real estate agents because like we're in sales, and this is a sales team that we run, right? A sales organization. And so if you don't treat it like that, in terms of your key performance metrics, your organization, your accountability to the pipeline, the pipe drive, then you're going to be on that roller coaster effect. And so, I'm thankful that, somebody invested in me over, I don't know, 13, 14 years ago when like nobody was really doing this stuff, and was able to kind of get out in front of it in 2010, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 14, 15, we're selling over 1,000 houses a year. So it's a blessing, but I love seeing other people take the model and run with it. From all components, the transaction management side of it, the marketing piece is huge. The listings department, all of that stuff, and to be able to see it all come together. And then Wichita has kind of took on like a self-organized group, if you will, type of role. And then I don't know, it's developing ISAs up in Toronto, and they're getting going in Wichita, and stuff like that. And so what we talk about today and what we get into, it's a commitment for sure. And the numbers get big, and they get big fast, but it doesn't happen without a big investment and a big heart and a lot of leadership. Because you can have even all them components that I, was talking about a few minutes ago, but if you're missing really that leadership piece, or the development of leaders to that accountability of that, good luck. It's like, I've seen a lot of people spend a lot of money, trying to build teams or inside sales departments, and just throw money at it. And it's like, you can't do that. It's like, you can't delegate your push-ups. Like, it's like you can buy as many shakes as you want or whatever, but you're eventually going to have to get out and go on a jog or hit the gym or whatever. So let me see if I can see the screen. Okay, cool. All right. So let's just jump into this. Hey, for the people that's actually tied to us with, top agent experts and all that stuff, I just want to say thank you guys, man. I appreciate it. It's like what I experienced a couple of weeks ago when I was in New York, man, when we're in the trenches and we're like, slugging this thing out, like when I'm talking about selling and rebuilding and just everything that personally I've been through. And I know everybody's got their own journey and their own story, their stories and their own risk and, pain and also pleasure that comes from it. But, like you can just see, like, I'm right there in the tan. Like, it was a pretty surreal moment. And it was, and it's like the shift we've been in, it was a long summer preparing for it. And it was a long winter, for where we're at. And even if you've seen the video I posted, I was pretty emotional. And so, thank you guys for that. I did not come for the stock. We all joined for different reasons. In terms of, running a top 10 sales team in America, and when I, sold and left and, tried to find a better way, we were 11th in the nation. And so my mind was, other places than stock for sure. But I understood and respected because, I also worked at Aflac and they awarded us stock by opening accounts, selling policies, and we had I think it was a 3-4 year investment period as well. And that's actually what transitioned me into real estate. Was I cashed all that out during the last downturn and took a year off before I met Gerbic, the guy that got me in real estate. And you've heard the story of me making $300 a week as an ISA because I was on average setting one appointment a week for $100 a pop. That's true. But then again, I also wasn't looking for a, necessarily a job or, something like that. I was looking for an opportunity to add on to stuff. And I just didn't, see myself getting into real estate. And if I did, I was going to do it as an independent agent. I was 28, obviously full ego and a lot of stuff. And then, where I'm at 41 and being able to pivot over into this model to start scaling with top agent experts, around that same age, 10 years later, and rebuilding from experience, it's been a wild ride. So I appreciate you guys. This is Stephen and Erica and Ben here. They're in Wichita. They all, operate and crush it here, with him. So the tribe that he's building is he's duplicating it and pretty impressive. And so I got a lot of respect, for him. And it's hard, I'm not going to say to give my respect, but it's hard for me to be like, damn, like that's amazing. You know what I mean? Because it's like I've seen a lot of stuff and been around a lot of stuff, and and we're all growing at a different rate and a different pace. But 30 units, to over 300. He started a lending company and doing a bunch of other things that is translating to his modern team and stuff like that with ISAs. But none of this works if you're not getting your people together. What is your goal? Like, do you have an ISA? Do you have 3 ISAs? What type of model do you run currently? How many homes are pending? Like, what's your net off of that? What's your cost per lead and then per lead sources. And I'm going to say, if you're going to get into the ISA game or any of that stuff, I would have the back of your house taken care of before the front of the house. A lot of people see me as some ISA guy or, prospecting person or whatever. And it's like more into marketing and structuring and running and scaling businesses. But I tell people, if you don't have a transaction management, it's like what I made Wichita do, what we had to do. It's like they dabbled with Mark Benefield's son before he went to Club Wealth, but getting the transaction management piece set up and the tracking necessary and streamlining that whole process in the back of the house before you add on to the front of it. So it helps you make good decisions, right? You're not randomly guessing and stuff like that. And these are, meetings that we would get around and cover these things. So hopefully you're meeting with your team and you're also meeting with your ISA team. That picture below was what we call the ISA bunker, where we were able to finally get a lot more space than a normal 12 by 12 room, as you can see them packed in on the right side below. I got often prospecting and I was generating internet leads and generating more business and the other few agents at the office. And then we just saw that we could turn this into a business model. I worked at MCI. I had some call center experience, and the way that I was managing data with Aflac was through auto dialers, and everybody else was teaching to blow into businesses and hand out cards and pass out 40 cards a day, and you'll end up, picking up some business. And it's a good old boy network for somebody that got into insurance at 22, driving around an 89 Buick with no AC, windows don't roll down, bought my, clothes from the Salvation Army to be able to dress up. And it's like, I have to be able to talk to more people. I have to be able to sift and sort at a faster pace. When IDX feeds kind of hit the scene, 2009, 2010, that's when I was getting my real estate license. And so there was a huge opportunity, for us to grow into a spot where other people that were generating these leads, and I've seen it a lot with my coaching companies and partners. It's like, do you know where your revenue is coming from? Like, you spend a lot of money on leads, and it's like you have different lead sources and you have these different agents and you have different things coming and going. And it's like, you guys seem busy, doing 100 deals, 200, 300 units, maybe even 70, 80. But it's like overwhelming at that rate. Is it really a well-oiled machine, and you know exactly where every closing is coming from? You can source it to every investment. So you know to decrease the investment, or if you're A/B split testing stuff, to kill that or up it if it's doing well. And then, there's a human element to this that I will show you on the spreadsheets, and we're not going to get too much, into that, but, making sure that your metrics in terms of, we'll just say a watermark or a benchmark in terms of what you expect off them following a core process, they would get close to from the human side of it. And so please, it's like, if you don't have the back of your business taken care of first, do that first, because I've talked to people. I go through a lot of ISAs, or we generate leads for 5 months or 3 months, and then it's like they kill that lead source and they don't stick with it. I'll tell you right now, I am almost 80, 90. I'm probably like 90 grand in this month's billing cycle on a lead source that I've only closed a couple of homes from. And you probably think that's crazy. And it's like, no, it's not. It's actually the company that EXP just launched with. It's just there were some things that we were working out, but I'm building my database with them, from scratch. And now things are starting to percolate and come back. But it starts to get, you start to get nervous, right? But I'm like, man, we're right around the 6-7 month mark. Haven't had an ISA. There was other zap issues with how they, were zapping or importing stuff. And so, I had to work with them to get things fixed, and I'm like, all right, we're seeing it. They're working with agents. I'm seeing them in the database move. But if you're going to, take on this like ISA, we'll call it a journey, because I refuse to even rebuild this back for a long time. And Gary has like virtual ISAs, and the lead coordination role has came in to the situation that wasn't relevant. We'll just say even 4 years ago. I'd probably say in the last 3 years, a lead coordinator with an ISA coupled with it, is necessary if you're going to be able to expand and do, some of the things at the level of, how my mind works. But even when, I brought Gary in, not back in, but, and he's phenomenal. And it's like, no, it's like, when you go down this journey, I'm just going to say, like, you're going to have to quit doing other crappy stuff, or other things that, like, could be a priority, but it's like really not if you're making a big investment. Because when you're talking about the development of a database, when you're talking about the development of another human being, an ISA, in terms of a foundational process that we would go through with people and get them to an advanced, what we would call a situation, but it's really what I would just call, they're just, okay, now fundamentally, good. And that's straight up 6, 7, 8 months right there, just to get to that point, with building a database from scratch, because you might not be generating internet leads. You might not have marketing campaigns. You might not have live chat. You might not have anybody making calls. You might just be working SOI or whatever. So when we hop into these models, and I'm going to talk about, the 3 top ones, and talk about the one that I believe in the most out of what I've seen, tested, and coached on. But the ISA model will also change, because when you're small, like, for example, me rebuilding it, and what I went through the first time, I look at it like we made changes as we grew, and so as you build your race car, engine faster, you're going to have to rebuild the frame, as the engine gets bigger. But you want to be able to begin with the end in mind. And data management is so important, and it can be overlooked, but it is really the most critical piece to this, tagged in with the marketing piece. Besides, picking a model, it's like who, what, when, and then, like, what's the psychology of your offer, and I think the offer and how you differentiate yourself is day and night the difference. And, Steven is with Urban is a perfect example of that. When, he brought Urban in and started marketing it like nobody else, was really looking like that. It wasn't an ego brand. It wasn't celebrity marketing or like any of that stuff. And I'll let him kind of talk a little more, to that. But the biggest mistake, we made when we first started building this model, and I see a lot of people do it, and it's like it makes sense, especially if you could recruit to it. Hey, we're just going to give, you could get away maybe, with the live transfer model, like without a doubt with this, because you're not necessarily controlling qualified set appointments or I don't know, how far you're going to initially get them with a lender or get a thumbs up or a thumbs down or set up showings or, set an office buyer consultation or a Zoom with them on the agent's calendar. But let's just say you do have that ISA and you are spitting out that type of quality appointments. The first thing that happened to us when we ran everything through an ISA is once we lost that ISA or, they started to see the agents cashing those checks was, our business was like hijacked and we bottlenecked it in terms of how fast we could get someone else trained or replaced or like anything like that. And so it's like, okay, if you got a really good person, a really great converter, and it's like that works. And if they're going to be content and stay put, but I will tell you in terms of the disc profile, and the person really needed, if you're going to hire for this position, I would try to find your manager or your leader first. For an example, when Gerbic hired me, it's like I can help building this, but eventually, I became an agent and went on to sell 25 houses my first year, and then so on and so forth, and then a top agent in the brokerage. Then, a team lead, then started running the brokerage, then got ownership. And so, there's just certain profile types, that will become competitive, with you. Right. And so depending on if you're trying to replace yourself, which hopefully if you're with top agent experts, you are, trying to replace yourself and, move on to other things. It's just at the time when I was building this model, it was a listing business. There was no outbound calls. There were no internet leads. There were none of that stuff. There was just a couple of people like staring at the phone, like watching paint dry on a wall. And it was like they were vultures over it. And it was like, they were so like, I would just say disgruntled because I came in the office like I'm trying to take some away from them. And I can remember like that feeling that first week I got my license and I told them, I don't even need to be on sign call. It's like, I'll go out here and create my own business and do my own thing. And, still to this day, I don't think I've ever been on floor duty or anything like that. But this is one model right here. And this is a model that everybody usually tries to start out with. And then they default to this model because also what happens is the ISA's database swells up and there's no way in hell one ISA can effectively and strategically follow up with people the way that they needed to be followed up with. And then also off of buying and selling behaviors throughout the day, printing flyers, doing loan calculations, asking questions, any other, mirrored behavior or triggers that can happen on your site or platform that you're using on top of the tasks that you set 4 months ago and the notes and things like that. And so they will just pile up. And then what happens is the agents, want to start, taking cracks at it, or it starts to create, some animosity, really when it's like, I'm not getting appointments. I don't get leads. Like what's up? Or what I've been getting is horrible. And so then what spawns from that is a community pool, right? And then everybody can kind of fish out of the community pool. And, I've seen people run the community pool really, really well, and it works. And so, the ISA is taking the initial leads, being we'll just say the first impression for the brand, for the business, for representing the unique value propositions, making those initial offers, being able to make those initial reads, with, getting them their credit score or letting them know we can send a listing agent out if they came through, a buyer funnel with with our listing agents and like what we do differently than everybody else and things like that. And it's just what they're doing all day. And the overflow will go in there that the agents can fish out of as well. But then the agents that are taking leads, and this is where, the first time I was coaching with Bob Corcoran, me and him got in a huge fight because, argument. It's like, because we were well connected, right? And we're doing more than anyone else. And he's coaching all these people. And he's telling people that, to not give them more than 100 leads. That makes sense. If you're an older agent, you don't make phone calls, and you only want to work with 100 people that like been set for you, and like you're not doing any prospecting, you're barely going to follow up. This is what I would say our listing agents would do. All the appointments was set for them, and then they just had to follow up with the sellers after the appointment. Like, hey, did you get that painting done? Did you trim your bushes, and do that type of follow-up, right? But when you're a buyer agent, and I think it's absolutely crazy to me if anyone is running their business right now and you're not using an auto dialer as an agent, not let alone saying that you're going to, build an inside sales team, with it. And so if I have a dialer and I'm only capped at 100 leads and I got to give you 5 leads back before I can get 5 new ones or divvy them up, like that's going to make me be inefficient to follow that type of system. However, it's protecting their investment and being, now like a rainmaker that I am, I get it. Right. But there's also got to be, if you run this model, there's got to be, some exceptions to the rule, because since I've already, I don't know how long we've been running, maybe almost 30 minutes, and we'll get through kind of this last model, and then we'll, bring Steve in a few minutes. But like, depending on the contact rate with that lead list, it's like I could already call 30, 40 people and maybe hit one of them, right? Got one contact. Yeah. And so this lead or this model right here, to me, breeds a little bit of not complacency like the other model does, and bottlenecks your business and really, puts you at, financial risk, across the board. But, this one capture people out, and it's like, I'm just sitting around waiting. And it's like, well, I don't want to give up these because like I'm working on them, right? Like I can work on them. And so for me, what we ended up really finding, and it's what at least the people that move off my philosophies and psychology with this, is we're building a prospecting team, right? Like we're all hands on deck. And it's like what I even love about Chris, and I got a slide in here, even the lenders are prospecting. And that's how the approach, Steven has taken. It's like, like we're a sales team. And so for me, I tried all of these models that I'm talking about, and many more. And the what we're going to get into with the exchange of value, with the split, because that's a whole nother discussion. And all of that's got to be spot on. But this model right here is what I call the hybrid. And so it's a couple of different models, from what Bob Corcoran was doing and things like that, because I was telling him to tell people, hey, you can have more than 100 leads and it's okay. It wasn't the golden rule. But nobody was taking more than 100 leads at this time. And then when I moved to this model right here, it was probably about the time me and Bob was going round and round, and he was trying to tell me I couldn't tell his coaching clients, whatever. And he was like the top coach in America at that time, coaching like, I don't know, like most of the top 2,500 teams. And he's got some like punk kid over here telling people not to follow this piece of his coaching, which thank you. If Bob ends up hearing this, like I learned a lot from him, and I got a lot of nuggets from all my coaches. But fundamentally, in terms of if you're going to do things at volume and build like actual sales team, it just wasn't right. And so and it's not right to not let your agents be competitive, and it's not right to not let your ISA be that support, but be competitive with that lead to be able to get the agent and the ISA on the same page where they aren't having culture issues or looking at each other like adversaries, or I'm having to give a certain split up or more for someone. And it's like they're really in it together, and the client can feel it, and we're actually making more revenue. And so, being able to give the leads to the agent, and it's like response times, that's been crammed down, our throats. Like, yeah, respond within, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, it starts to decrease every minute, after that, and leads dead, and, it's like so on and so forth. And so, yeah, you want to keep your response times definitely respectable, with your agents, and, or if you want to have agents taking leads like on sign call or floor duty, and then they're just taking all the leads and doing a rotating shift like that. And, like with us, it's like, if you're going to be there at your desk on sign call, you can't be on your computer. You got to be able to take a live transfer. You got to be able to answer and make a connection with this client, right? So you could do something like that, but letting the agents, have the first crack at it, right? Because what you're going to find out is the agents can convert things that ISA spoke to, and there are just other people that quite frankly can convert what an agent just spoke with the day before, for many different reasons: timing, where the agent was at, where the actual suspect or client was at, personalities, just connecting better, whatever it may be. And so we would let the agents take the first crack at it, but then we would across all data, every single piece of data in our company, even if it was a sign call and it went to one of our agents, or it don't matter if they talk to an agent or not, because at first it's like, well, I already talked to them, hands off. And then it's like, we take a customer service approach instead of that initial contact or welcoming approach. So they're not saying the same exact thing, right? And it's just that additional value, and it done us well. And so basically a 24-hour lag is what I called it. And then, we come through as what I call that safety net, and we clean up all of the data. And, this is where the segmenting and the data management is like really, really important, in terms of, sign calls, buyer leads, seller leads, like any other leads that you're generating across your organization, the text to writer stuff, and being able to quickly position that agent as your like partner and somebody that you service, right? It's like, Teresa is a great agent. Yep. She's, one of the best agents on the West Side. I'm just, I work here in the client care department. I'm just one of her assistants. I see she actually spoke with you yesterday, and just wanted to, say thank you and see if she answered all your questions. But it's like, as fast as that dialer is moving, you got to pull the notes up and all of that stuff, because we put everybody in a central pool before we segment them out, and we scrub everybody back across. And what you'll find out is, they forgot to set up a home hunter alert and customize, the emails to be sent out to them for whatever reason, even though agents know to set that up, but it's like, didn't get set up. And we know that buyers don't shop for agents, they shop for homes, and so being able to send them relevant information, from the IDX feed into their email before they opt out, because it's not anything that they're looking for, is important. And then, the subject lines and the content and all of that stuff will set up, hopefully the ISA and the agent down the road to be able to get responses, and things like that. And then from the initial cleanup and call, like off of the quad scripting, I'm not going to get too much into scripting, guys. We do a lot of scripting with this kind of stuff, and get with us on, some of our role playing scripting stuff. We got a lot of other cool stuff, but the quad scripting, to be able to put them, in the 4 directions that they need to go will dictate, that follow up. And then also being able to have that buying behavior or seller behavior dictate follow-ups as well. But what's up, Steven? Are you here? I'd love to hear kind of like, your take on some of these, at least what I call the top 3 models, and see how, you're kind of running this similar to, probably, how we were with the lending piece to it, with being able to make, those brand promises of, hey, we can let you know your credit score in a matter of minutes, or let you know your debt to income ratio, or we can let you know exact payments, right? And let me see if I can unmute you here. And so oh yeah, I'll bring you on here. And this was the one that I was talking about, the last piece with the lead coordinator. And I'll talk about why the lead coordination role with the master tracker is very important. And you can't really mix the two up, or you're going to lose efficiencies with your outbound sales stuff. Let's see, allow to talk. All right. What's up, Steven?
What's up? Can you hear me?
Yeah, live and direct, man. I appreciate you being able to swing in here.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I mean, I think we probably use the model most like the last one that you just said, the lead to ISA model. I mean, all of our lead sources go straight to the ISAs. And really, we haven't really had the agents prospecting through the database, just because of a control standpoint of just controlling the lead experience. And obviously,
Right.
if you allow agents to call, then they may like flaw the experience somewhat.
But you know what you quickly did when I was watching that happen. You built in variance. How many ISAs do you have?
We're up to 5 now.
So
we just hired 2 today, so we have 3. We have 3.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. And we know you love all of them, and they're all going to be around forever. I'm just speaking here. If one just up and quit today because they're unhappy or they're going to another brokerage, are you really going to be that worried?
No, I mean, we have a redundancy built in. I mean, even
Right.
that's why we hire 2 at a time too, just because that way you're training 2 people. It's the same amount of effort, really. So then if one decides to leave or someone decides to leave, we have built-in redundancy in place. So
yeah, so I love that you bring that up. That actually kind of goes into we get there after the exchange of value. I guess we can kind of touch on it real quick. And I want to talk about the lead coordination role, and then I want to ask you what your opinion of it is, or if you have any plans of running any third party like we'll just say like Opcity or other things like that we know that the bigger teams and what it's just where the game is going, just to keep max lead flow. But then you got to play inside of their system and their algorithm and by their rules, and turns into a little bit of data management and a lead coordination game over the last couple of years. So I'd be interested, to hear what like, if you have someone like that, and what we would call the master tracker that's already happening, that the lead team leads on the buyer or seller side would do with holding the agents accountable with actually getting the actual stuff into escrow, right? Or further into agency, or a listing agreement, or like something like that. And so the thing is, it's like you hire one agent or you hire one ISA. It's like that's like the toughest thing to do, right? It's like I did that with Sean, and it's like I knew better, and then he up and went to Club Wealth like a year later, right? When it's like, man, like I knew better with some of these things, but it's like you think I know Mark, or I know this, and it's like it won't happen to me. It can happen to any of us. So I love that you said that. When you're hiring agents and going to start that training over, or that process, or the ISAs, I say hire 3 and 1 will work out. Like that's what I tell people, because that's what I've seen. But have you been stuck before where you had 1 and they quit? Like what made you want to, just start to ramp up like that and build in some variance? The marketing, your database, why?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know if we've ever been down to less than 1. I mean, I hired the first ISA back June of 2020, and we had 1 for a while, then we had 2, and then we went down to 1, and then we went back up to 4, we went back down to 1. So we've always had 1 at least. But obviously the fear always is going back to zero, because then that just kind of makes the whole model explode, because you can't really have a lead to ISA model if you don't have an ISA. But I think that hopefully, we're over that. We're not going to run into that issue ever, just because, we have some mature people in the, like they have, substantial pipelines on the ISA side. So they're really in the, starting to make money. It's just that initial ramp up period where you're not making a ton of money because you're learning and training and building your pipeline. And then once you obviously can start, that pipeline starts to, convert over to agent appointments and stuff, that's when obviously money will start to, start flowing in. And that's when you start to feel better. But just really getting through that first 3 to 6 months on just, on really it just being an investment, like you're saying on the leads, like you really just have to plan like the first 3 months, like don't plan on ROI, like just plan on having to, that it's just going to be an expense that you're eating. I mean, that's why. So we're hiring two in February, because we obviously know that, things are starting to ramp up now. Buyers are starting to look, sellers are starting to inquire about home values. So really just having that, that ability to scale up during the months. And then by the time we get into the fall, that they'll be sufficient and be able to really mine through the database and generate deals that wouldn't exist without really having the ISAs there.
Okay. No, I love that. And so, and great work, by the way, man. It's like, you remind me so much of like myself and Mike when when you got to make that commitment and just do it when it's lonely and nobody's with you, but it's not like that now. I mean, you're like turned into a superstar here in town, but I can remember just a couple of years ago when I was, we was opening that office out west or whatever, and you would just come in and every morning, and it's like, this is what people don't understand with the discipline piece and the commitment piece of this. It's like every morning, no matter what, this guy, hung over or not, he don't drink anymore neither. He's got like a year on me. But like he would be there every morning prospecting and getting his time in as a single agent with like doing 30 deals. And it's like, if he was inconsistent and wasn't showing up every day and he wasn't focused on data management, and he was serious about data management then, he's serious about data management now. He was serious about getting his prospecting calls in, just like he's serious about his overall team getting, their call volume in, that he knows they're capable of with actual woman power, manpower that they have. And then controlling what he said that I love is the customer experience with the offers, and making sure that you're getting repeat and referral business, coming back off of that and building a good brand with it. And so, maybe as we hop in here with the value of exchange, just as an example, like we know you can go buy data, if you guys can see my screen, for, 25 cents, 10 cents, right? Or, you can get Google leads and, just top of the funnel, basic, squeeze page registries, in may or may not even know, the message or the psychology of how they came in, for $10 or, 15 or whatever. And then you can start to get into, higher qualified appointments, lower, middle, bottom of the funnel. We'll just say they're further along in the cash conversion cycle. And if you've been around me long enough, you know what that is. I don't want to stop to explain that. But basically the lead price is going to go up, right? And then it's like, so what is, an agent willing to pay, for a live transfer, an appointment, a qualified appointment, or being able to go through the process to help invest in that system to get that built out? Because when you made your first hire, you didn't have all this stuff going. It was just you, right? And you had to get somebody to believe in the vision, and you had to make investments that you're talking about, and all of that stuff. And so, like, help me understand like how you, how you basically, what I had to do over the years was show your value, from, taking a piece of data, like what you're doing with the ISAs, because you're not letting the agents work it because you have the built-in variance and you have the protection there and willing to carry that extra cost. Now, what's the difference in terms of, we'll just say, and maybe you can help, us understand what your appointments look like in the process. Are you just giving them over to the agents and they're helping them get pre-approved with the lender, or are you turning over pre-approved buyers like we were and pre-qualified sellers, or are you kind of doing, what our VAs are doing, just kind of a transfer, off 4 or 5 questions similar to like Op City?
I mean, the goal is always going to be to get the buyer qualified and then get it over to the agent for a buyer consultation. Obviously, same thing with the listing, is a listing appointment in the home that is a qualified appointment. However, that's not always going to be the case, and more than likely is not the case. So we're obviously just pushing as far as we can until they're just ready to meet with an agent, So obviously we're going to be pushing for those questions. We're going to be doing everything we can. But if they want to meet with an agent, we're not going to stop them, And so I think that's where a lot of people make a mistake, because in this world, like obviously times have changed quite dramatically. In this world, if you just go ahead and get out of, if you just be like, well, I'm not going to set that appointment, well, they're just going to get on Zillow and just get with the next agent, right? So that doesn't really do you any good. So we train our agents to be able to, like we have the qualifying questions. We have a template in our CRM that has kind of the questions that we want to have. And so then the agents go knowing it into the appointment what information we do not have. And then, the expectation is for them to complete that exchange of information.
Yeah.
So like that. So obviously, we do set quite a few they're pre-qualified buyers with an agent for a consultation. Sometimes it's a home showing, but sometimes it's literally like, hey, like a sign call. Hey, I want to go look at this house. And it's like, I'm in front of it right now. And you're like, they're just not giving you a lot of information. Well, we let the agent go ahead, knowing that there's not a ton of information we have, but it's on their, responsibility to convert at the appointment. So it's just, there's not really I know some people will push back harder, but we just know the way it works, because I literally will, back in the beginning, we would get off that sign call. Then 10 minutes later, we would get a request and showing time for a new appointment for that house for the exact same time that guy wanted to go look at the house, So, well, that's done because some of the times they end up buying the house, So you're just giving up money there because you
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can, and you're on.
Yeah. So for example, with us back in select days, it was like, man, I got put through the ringer to get this thing built and everything else. And it was like, we had to deliver on that, it's like, and so we would tell people no. But I agree with you. We are in different times. We are in different markets. And I agree with you. We were losing business too, but then it's like, but we're also saving, protecting agents' time. But what needs to happen in this situation, and I'm sure you can correct me if I'm wrong, you're also looking for red flags. And so it's like, if this checks out and there isn't the red flags here, you should be safe to gamble and go and get up on a Sunday morning and feel like it's still worth your time, because it's going to net out working for you more often than not, right? From the agent standpoint.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We do weed out, some people for sure, if the red flags are really being triggered, So, and obviously like, things like, well, my agent's not available, so we're going to weed those people out. We're going to, put them through forewarned to make sure there's not like, that they don't have a bunch of felonies or whatever, so we're not putting our agents at risk with that way. So, but we're doing a lot of stuff to really just try to make sure. And then, also we're trying to put it on the agent to kind of data gather before the appointment. So, we don't do live transfers. That's never been something that I would, I thought would be a good idea, just because of the way, my model runs. It doesn't really work for what we're doing. But what we do is we do a group text, and then the agent will send a video in a group text to kind of like confirm the appointment and just to put a name to the face. So So that's really
Yeah.
the way we handle things, because that's just kind of the nature of our business. Where we were an ISA, quite a bit different too, because we're slowly diminishing the value of a call. I mean, I think give us another 1 or 2 years. I don't know if we'll make phone calls at that point, but because the connect rate is just going down so much. I mean, the data that we have over the past 2 years, I mean,
Yeah.
our connect rate is going down
Yeah.
so low, but our text
What
rate
what
is,
what is what is it for you right now?
it's like 1%. So
Guys, that is crazy compared to, we'll just say, I can show you numbers where it's 24, 23.
yeah, I mean,
You know,
it's just low, which, I mean, it's the nature of the world right now, right? Like a lot of people like Apple and Android, they have it on their phone that if it's a
yeah,
number
yeah.
not in their
Here,
phone, it goes straight to
yeah,
voicemail.
no, yeah. Here's where we're at, Steve. So this kind of what I'm getting at, and and this is what has happened. I would say, when all these tech companies started coming in, and really when the lead coordination role is needed with the ISA. And the reason, it makes sense that, you're not going to do that transfer. It's you're controlling all of that. You're going to control the quality, you're going to control the consistency of it, the communications, the offer, but you're also controlling the money, right? Because as you guys see here, what's the value exchange, between, we'll just say, a brokerage, a team lead, or that agent, right? And quite frankly, if you can't convert on your own in this business, you're like just servicing the business, right? Like that's all you're doing. And so whoever controls the conversion, guys, controls the business. And so the quicker or the closer you can get to the conversion of that with the predictability, of that. And I got tons of numbers I could show you, and that Steve has his dialed in as well. That's going to be those will be, the people that are designing their own life, and whether real estate fizzes out or not, or we become replaced like travel brokers, you can up and take, these models that we built and how we run them in any sales, with any product or service, really, as long as you can, okay. Like the database with the agents, like they're obviously following up with what you give them. And so when I showed the pools and the capping, and they have to turn 5 leads in or a lead to get a lead in, like, do you do any of that stuff with it? It's like, do you max them out at a certain amount?
Yeah, we do have like a max on how many leads they have in their pipeline. It depends upon like how many they're closing on average per month. So like if they're closing more than then we're going to give them up to 100. If they're really closing just one a month, then we're going to give them like 40 at most, probably.
Yeah. See, I couldn't work in that model though. That was tough, because it's like, could you work in that model? But you've built it for the average agent, because it's like, man, I can get through this in a day instead of 2 months, right? Unless
Well, yeah, but our 40 is going to be like appointments that people that you met, so it's not like 40 leads, it's 40 people that you have came across, and
hopefully you have agency with, or a game plan with, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So I love that. That's what I'm telling people. The market that we're going back into, guys, is really the market that I thrived in. And when I'm telling my younger partners, like, hey, you need to carry 25 agencies on the buying side, they're like, we never get agency, or we write it, when we write the contract. And I'm like, no, this is what you need to do, 25, 30 agencies. So I love to hear you say around 40, with that benchmark. And with, what I was saying a few minutes ago before I wanted to know that. So agents, when we were doing it, and the contact rates we're up there before all the tech companies started coming in and competing with the other tech companies that were in here. There was real, we'll just say, value in a lead, right? There still is real value in a lead, but to me, the days of, like, we'll just say, leads in terms of the IDX feed and the quality of the squeeze page of how we know them from the past decade, those days are over. I was a coach and part of the conversion club with Chris Smith. You guys should all go join us. The best $150, I'm spending a month, and he is over delivering value. I'd probably pay $500 to $700 a month for it now. And I talked to him actually tomorrow, on some other stuff, but like, he's just giving so much stuff out, right now. And what people don't understand is you're going to have to pay for the lead twice. And I was talking in one of his workshops, and, he ended up putting my stuff up, and he's like, but you're so right. And I was like, this is just what it's come down to. It's like, if you're going to generate Google, Yahoo, Bing, I don't care, even Zillow, even Opcity stuff, whatever, other live transfers, like, you're going to have to spend money to convert that again. And if you're going to actually net an ROI, it's like, there's no way you could just generate leads and think that you're just going to take care of what we're going to call a business, right? People want to go see now or list their house, or, they're, 0 to 90 days out. You really are going to have to spend money and reinvest back into that initial investment with the labor side of it, tech piece, communication, and the nurturing piece with that, with your B and C leads, through the longer cash conversion cycle. And I've seen people, we'll just say Toronto, for example, because, we're doing our thing up there, and shout out to any of the Toronto people on here. But it's like, you can sell $1 million house, and that margin of commission will make up for a lot of, we'll just say, variance of mistakes with data management or following, sales process and stuff like that. And even in some of my higher price markets, we'll say 400 or 500. But, could you imagine spending money on leads, and then do you think that they would be able to, percolate and come back out if you weren't running an auto dialer as an agent and working as an inside sales person? Because if you are an agent and you're not running an auto dialer or working like an inside salesperson, you're not going to make it in this industry. And maybe you have another thought of opinion, but when I watched you, Steven, get this going, and like what you reminded me of myself with the consistency, the discipline, and the follow through with all this, weren't you working like an inside sales agent? Weren't you like running like that?
Yeah. I basically, when I started the ISA department, I was essentially ISA number one, because I had to figure out how to make it work before I could really hand off a bit. And I still sometimes will jump in there and, run through the process a few times just so I can see, like, hey, what's changing, what's going on, what adjustments do we need to make,
Yep.
Because obviously, like, for us, I mean, like, the ISA is the it is the piece that controls all the conversions. So if it's the most important piece of the business, so I mean, it's still important to jump in there and get going on it. So
yeah, I mean, without a doubt, I love hearing that. And so this is what I tell people all the time, man, when they're like, hey, I want to, get an ISA. It's like, well, do you have a legit assistant yet? No. Do you have transaction coordination or listing coordination? Well, I kind of got this. It's like, you need more of that, right? The 12, 13, 14, $15 an hour work versus giving up the highest paid position in your job other than the CEO role of your company. Like, that is the livelihood of your business, is being able to interface with the stranger, right? And being able to have them respond back to a message. And that kind of, is going to wrap up what I'm saying about leads and what people are looking for, and getting a response off of that and getting them to commit to it. And so, what I'm seeing even across, the 2,500 agents and the modern team is, people don't want leads anymore, right? It's like they don't want to do the hard stuff. They don't want to learn how to fish on their own. They don't want to spend the time honing the skill set. What they would rather want is a response back to something. And so when we look at even where the market's going, it's like, okay, you can't even sit there on an auto dialer, we'll just say, all day. And it's like, if there's no pickups, there's no pickups. But I think you're right. We're almost on the line of, you had to go all in with kind of like the written word or a different approach to get a response off of a video, maybe off of the written word, in different deliverables and try to find that. And I think that you kind of was trying to do that at the highest level when you got Urban like officially set up and you were, you and Travis, like were the ISAs, I think kind of referencing the time, the time that you were, what you're talking about, and you were generating so many leads. And I was like, man, he is generating way too many leads. I kept telling you, you're being maybe inefficient, but you didn't care about that because you had dialed in something that was getting them to respond back to you. And so you were pulling the cream and a certain percentage to the top and then was able to scrape that off. Right. And then we'll just say 1,000 leads, and only for a couple of people, that's insane or something. But you're only dealing with, we'll just say the top 10%, 100 that would respond. And so, kind of tell me about that process, because that's where we're at right now. And I think that if people don't figure this out at scale, like it's definitely game over. An auto dialer won't even save you.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the thing, right? Is like having the automation kick in like from the beginning and have them. Like we just kind of like, triage our leads right from the from beginning of the cycle. So it's like people that respond right away, checking in exactly where they are. Are they going to be a nurture? Are they in appointment now? Or are they not? Are we archiving them, So we're doing that right off the bat and just continually doing that throughout the process. And then everybody in our database is put on some type of automation based upon however they're whatever they're on, outside of A to B client or lead. Those are going to be on manual task touch points from the ISAs themselves. So outside that, though, everyone else is on automation. I mean, if you're like, hey, I have an agent, we have an automation for that. Hey, I bought a house, we got an automation for that. Hey, go screw yourself, we got automation for that, right? So we just got all these automations built in. So right now we have like about 45,000 leads in our database, and we are sending out hundreds of thousands of text messages every month to just find where those sweet points are with that kind of getting that cream, So, and that's still the point. Like we're getting over 1,000 leads every month coming in, but we also have this huge database that we're constantly going through, seeing, like checking activity. Are they opening the emails? Are they clicking listings? Are they checking their home value? All these type of things that we're constantly, we got in there. Are they, we have MailChimp sent out, we're going through and seeing like, hey, are they opening all of our emails? If so, what's going on with that person? Are they super interested? Are they ready to move to that next level? So, we got all these layers in there, and we got, DAs helping us and all that to really just identify, those people that we need to go after. And then the people that never respond, I mean, it's like we call them 4 or 5 times in 2 weeks. We send them a bunch of messages, we send them probably about 20 texts within the 2 weeks time point. And then at that point, if they're not responding, then we're just going to put them on a slow drip. And then whenever they show us signs of life, then we'll get back on them, but we're not going to waste.
Bingo. That's the data management piece right there that people mess up with their ISA. You're like, hey, I am paying for the labor of this position. And it's like, you want to get them closest to a conversion versus trying to just recycle the data. So I'm glad that you said that, because people, when they're shadowing us through live and direct, which I'll talk about it here in a minute, but I love to hear how you hire disc. You guys kind of see me move through some of the disc stuff. The first couple of slides I showed you guys, like we would have them as like mouse pads and stuff like that, and talk about the disc and all that. But it's it's like you can hire to that or not. But when when you're going through, and these VAs are also like adding these notes in and doing this stuff, like, are they kind of like what I was calling the lead coordination person, or
lead coordination. Yeah, exactly. I mean, our master tracker is in Sisu for us, but also any appointments. We kind of started taking the Op City model So our agents are required to update notes on each lead they have from us. If it's an A or B lead, every once a week. So
Right.
that's a requirement for them to stay on leads, and not to get any taken off. If it's a C and D, it's like once a month. But yeah, so that's just kind of a requirement from us. Like if you're going to take leads from us, these are the expectations. So, and the VAs will go in and make sure that those notes are being updated.
Okay, so that is part of the data management piece with the time management piece that I'm getting at. So like with me, like we would cycle you out after 7 calls, and it's like when I say that we take all lead sources, we scrub them back across, the initial, we'll just say welcoming or outbound word tracks. Or if they talk to the agent, we're taking our client care approach, right? Across all lead sources, no matter what the company touches at all, or we have the seven calls. And then obviously we got some of the text and the automation stuff would be on the back end. And people would always ask me, that's all you're going to do with that and leave it like that. And it's like, if I've already put that amount of effort into it, and it's like, I would rather go generate something new and get my cash to turn over quicker. And it's like, it's not like I'm just forgetting about them. So the second piece that Steven had mentioned that hopefully you guys caught on, that I talked about it in the beginning, is the buying and selling behavior. And so if the behavior changes or dictates, a response that's more optimized, not random, right? And, specific to, some type of activity going on, then, they are more probably to respond to that, versus maybe a random call or, hey, I'm just following up with you, or, hey, I'm just touching base. Like nobody wants any of that stuff, right? But if it's like, hey, I seen that, you had printed the flyer, are you going to drive by and look at it? We'd love to, set up a, private showing if you're going to go by and look at the exterior. Or I seen that you did a loan calculation on a house. Like, we have, one of our benefits is with, with having an account, because we're more than a website, we can let you know your credit score, in a matter of minutes with no obligation. Right. And it's like, damn, and telling them that payment's off because it's not taking into account, taxes, insurance, or credit score, all that, and trying to build that trust. Right. And trying to get a response. But you're not going to keep what I see doing with people. They're like, well, I got 500 leads in my database. And it's like, yeah, but they called them 500 times, right? It's like, why don't you go generate some more money and put your people in better positions with more at bats? And so with the data management, that's kind of like your philosophy with it as well. Set it and forget it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, like that's just the thing is like you really have to make sure you have leads coming in, and leads aren't terribly expensive, if you're doing pay-per-click or if you're doing social media or whatever, but those do have a longer conversion cycle. So you just need to take that into account when you're doing that, and then just have those, plans in place on making sure that they don't fall through the cracks, because that was the biggest piece on why I started an ISA department, because there's only so much you can do as an agent. Like there is literally just so much you can do. And so when COVID happened, like obviously we had lots of time free. So I went through and called back all the people I told I would follow up with. Well, guess what? Majority of those people bought homes already, not with me, but I did talk to them. I did, set up things with them, but I just never followed up with them because I could be mad at myself, but I only have so much time in a day between showing houses, listing appointments, buyer appointments, obviously just general prospecting, when you're a single agent, marketing, all that kind of stuff. Like you can only do so much. So,
but you did it the right way in the right order. You didn't get the highest.
Hi, Rhonda. Good afternoon. My name's Steve Wilbur. I'm a real estate agent
Steve.
with EXP Real Estate.
Let's hear Steve make a prospecting call. But what I like, man, when I talk about when people are like, damn, how did Matt grow, or this person grow, or like this is what people don't understand. You have to do the right things and then also do the right things in the right financial order with the personal development side onto it. So you just didn't replace yourself first. Like you got a transaction person and, you know, you did all, like you had that stuff built out around you first, right? And the 12, 13, $14 an hour work was taken care of. And the last piece that I tell people is the ISA piece is last, but everybody wants to make it first. Right?
Yeah.
It was last. Okay, cool.
Now, everyone wants to make it first because they don't want to make the calls. And if you don't want to make the calls, then you've got to ask yourself, are you really a salesperson? And can you run a salesperson organization? You know?
Right. No, and the answer is no. And so when like, even I see people that like do really well and they're trying to get off their plate, and it's like, dude, like this is going to be the most important piece of your whole company that is going to end up like leading and driving your company. And you're saying that you can't figure it out or you don't want to do it. But I will tell you the hardest thing is getting that fire going. Like what Stephen was said, instead of one, you do two, because once you get one developed, that's the hardest part, developed, which will take time. Like building databases in the beginning will take time. But once they get like lit and a fire is lit, it's like it's easier to make that fire bigger or to keep it going. So you know, and so I appreciate it here. Now, do you hire to a disc? These are actually some gentlemen that I used to work with. I got a lot of respect for these guys. There's another guy on here, Tony. He's one of my partners with the Boulevard Group now. But you know, Tony came on and jumped in. You know, a similar system that Steven's you know, talking about. That he's humming right along with. And Tony went from, you know, like rookie of the year, you know, from selling cars to the rookie of the year in Sedgwick County here. And then Dylan on the right here was a PE teacher, and he came in the following year after Tony and was, you know, rookie of the year as well. And so you don't want to necessarily depend on the people. You want to depend on the systems, right? And then let the systems manage the people and dictate what's going on. But first of all, you got to get the right people sitting on the right seat of the bus. If you guys have ever heard that. And so you're seeing like a screenshot of somebody asking us about a disc profile, you know, for some clients or whatever. And we're like, it's a no-go, you know, in terms of, you know, probably, you know, their I personality, you know, being down and their S or their C being up and so on and so forth. So I hire to the disc, you know, I'm necessarily won't meet you and just rule it out. I've made decisions when the disc told me otherwise that ended up working out for me, you know, over my career. But do you hire to the disc? Do you have a standard, you know, like we'll just say testing procedure for any position on your team, or more specifically the ISA piece?
I mean, you know, we kind of use the disc as a guide, but we don't really follow it. We like to see where people fall. I think over time, the ISA role in my mind has kind of morphed in terms of the way that it approaches the disc profile.
Oh, for sure.
Mostly because of the data management side, you had to have a person that has an S&C in there, you know, because, you know, you got to make sure that they're following the process to a T. Because if not, then they're going to screw up the whole data management part of it. But we're obviously looking for someone that has an eye, that really wants to connect with people. So we're looking for that, but then we're also looking for people that, you know, have overcome adversity in their life, you know, and that are money motivated as well. So, you know, those are the two things that we really tried to key on, is like, okay, what kind of adversity have you overcome? And can you give me some examples? And then how important is it to you to make money? So those are the two big things that we really look for, as well as having a personality that will translate on the phone and having familiarity, you know, being able to be very tech savvy, because, you know, that's just the way it is right now. The world's all tech based for real estate, and it's not going to change. So
yeah. So
we have to make sure that you can obviously, you know, fumble around, you know, make sure you understand exactly what you need to do for these leads. So it's become a very complicated job, I feel like, over time, you know, especially where we first started, you know, but obviously
it's not complicated. It just became competitive.
Yeah.
You know, when you throw in the tech piece to it and you throw in some of the other pieces, you're absolutely right, man. It's like you're going to have to be like multi-function to sell in this industry. You're going to have to be good on video. You're going to have to be good with the written word. You're going to have to be good in presentation. You're going to have to be good in a lot of things that you didn't have to be good at, other than it's like if you were great face to face as an agent and you could get a decent lead source or get around, some type of group or, lean on some system, not even a full blown one like you could kill it. Right now, today. Now today, it's like if you don't embrace the technology piece of it and the communication piece of it, you're going to get smoked because even, with like my group, 2,500 agents, it's like I see these and I just turned 41 and it's like I've been pushing for a long time, chasing a lot of these guys down that now I finally have, passed up or doing, way like just business has changed. It's like fundamentally how, transactionally we are. It's like I would never imagine any of this. And I'm seeing these guys that are like, we'll just say 28, 29. I mean, hell, even watching you over these last couple of years has been inspiring. And I'm sure it's inspiring, like you're like yourself and it's like everything that I told you, you were going to do, you've like done it pronto. But it's like these young kids are like doing like 100 millions like easy. And I know that I got a plaque where I got 124 million, at 31, and running it and pushing. But I had a lot of veterans and a lot of good systems built out. And, we were, off and running. I know we were doubling, or growing, by whatever that 75%, 79% that year. And then I took it over and then 25% after that. But it's like, I mean, what do you think it is? Just being able to relate to the consumer, being able to use technology a little better, maybe not being awkward and being able to, just have that relatable experience. Why would you say urban even caught on and was able to take off the way it did, or we'll just say some of the younger agents that you're plugging and playing in? I know it's a system, but what do you think it is maybe with the consumer, why it's changing so much?
Well, I mean, I think we're just, we're really trying to maximize, the technology side, but then focus, a lot on the, like constantly focusing on the client experience, I mean, that's just where, from a team perspective that, it's hard to compete when you can control the client experience from the start to the end, and there really is no end. Right. So a lot of times, newer agents or just solo agents, like they're just really having to fly by the seat of their pants and not really have a good onboarding system for clients, just, and then be able just to provide tons of value to them throughout the process to be like, why would you ever want to buy a house with anyone else,
Right.
So, and obviously I think, there's agents out there that do 20, 30 deals a year and they're really successful because they have a great personality. They care a lot, but the problem is they're probably never going to be able to scale beyond that just because you need that client experience really to be front and center. You can't scale the client experience from a one-to-one standpoint.
No, not really. Just like I couldn't scale the traditional team one-to-one agent like I was doing before to say, 2,500 agents. Like there's got to be something geometric built in there that's compounding and more importantly, being able to tap root through that stuff. And, I got the RAM program built in here because I'm going to give you guys some lead sources today too. I know we're talking about lead sources and a bunch of other stuff. And so hang here and we'll burn through some of this stuff. But, the training aspect of it, is important for the consistency piece of it. But through the experiential learning to be able to train these ISAs and agents, what I learned from Tony Robbins stuff, and it spawned a whole coaching company years ago off of it. It was what I call live and direct, where you can listen to us make live prospecting calls and set up pre-approval attempts with the lender, the processing or listing appointments or buyer appointments. And I sold the library and all that stuff with it, before. But it's like, on demand, what's it sound like to to have that consistent experience, to know how these conversations go. So it expedites we'll just say the personal development side of the inside sales team, but then also the outside sales team, kind of how we ran. And I know you have more control and, over that, but, like, are you ramping them up similar, or are you putting them through, any type of curriculum? Like help me understand, what that onboarding process looks like. And is it, for me, with the foundational training to get through the advanced stuff I mentioned in the beginning, guys, even with the money people would pay us, and it's the same process we would put our own people through. It was about 6 months, you know what I mean? And not necessarily say, oh, I'm done, obviously with the coaching clients, but in terms of like that consistency of what the client's going to experience when they say this, when this happens, I know without a doubt that like the client's going to experience this from this person sitting on this seat of the bus. And so what is your timing to get these people up and running? 90 days or shorter to get up and running, but what's your, what's your, like, they're urban right now. Is it 6 months? What's the process look like?
So for the ISAs, we have a training goal specified for the ISA onboarding. So usually like the first week, we're going to do like a blend of like videos and shadowing. And then the second week, we're going to shadow the new ISAs. And then week 3, they'll be starting to make calls. We're obviously going to have them call like the people that we've probably called 100 times, like the never answers. To just kind of get through that really process of making the phone calls, getting past that hesitancy, but obviously not screwing up any opportunities. And then slowly over time, as they get appointments, and then we send them like through the not interested, then we give them to the have agents, and then we get them to like the bought a house people. We kind of just move them up, and as they schedule more appointments, then we start unlocking new lead sources. And then, so by the time they get to like 60 appointments, then they're on like realtor.com and Zillow and stuff like that. So, but we try to like, we want them to be done. We want them to have 60 appointments set by about like by month 4, so, and usually like they'll start to be like, first month will be like 5 appointments, then this second month it'll be like 15, and then the third month it'd be like 20. And then because they're still really not, they're just getting like the Facebook leads, which not very many Facebook leads are right now, people, but we just want them to slowly start building up their database, their pipeline, just so we can kind of oversee, we're checking in on their conversations, we're auditing them, stuff like that. And then just constantly like, training to issues that were coming up. But then we're always just training the whole ISA department just based upon like the current, objections we're getting. And, obviously we want to make sure like we overcome we have the rebuttal for every objection that we get. So we just want to make sure, we role play that every day. We do 30 minutes of role play with the ISAs every day. Just to make sure we really reinforce those qualities in there. So,
yeah. So I love it. So, being able to have the focus of, this is what we're going to call FISBOs, or this is what we're going to focus on. And so that's what's up. And then the recording of calls, I'm assuming you've done that. We recorded all calls. We go back and listen to them. And, that's the quickest way to improve. That's what they how much footage did Mahomes watch, so far to prepare for the Super Bowl, and, just his few minutes of probably action, and 20 minutes, whatever it could be. And so, when I used to go back and listen to myself, I hated like going back home after prospecting every day and listening to myself. It was like so painful, but I was committed to figuring it out. And then I was like, damn, I didn't hear that is what they said, or their tonality, or this is what they actually meant by reading between the lines, because I was more of like a deer caught in the headlights, or just like overlooking it. And so then I could start, making adjustments off of listening to that audio and stuff like that. And so doing this in a live and direct format with, we'll just say professional, or somebody that is, we'll just they're just stamped and approved, right? Then you're able to listen to them, but hear other people listen to you and then get feedback, right? And so the aesthetics piece to it from Tony Robbins, being able to visually see it with screen sharing, being able to hear it with the audio, being able to put your hands on it, type and ask questions, why you're moving the data like this, why are you, we hear this, and we'll just say the theory or the practical class. But then, or in the theory class, because, you're still teaching it, but then in practice, like actual real life time, something else would happen. And then you could kind of explain that. Right. And so you're rocking at that mega, agent status, man. I've had you here for, a little bit. I have some other like marketing and stuff like that. I'm going to go through with some of these people, and if you want to hang out, cool. If not, man, it's like, I guess I'll let anyone ask him any questions. If anyone's got any questions, or if you have any, final words you'd like to say, man. And I appreciate your time so much. And what you're building is amazing. And it's like, what you don't understand, it's going to be the central engine that does a lot of like great stuff for you up and down the Midwest and throughout the nation.
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite the experience, and I still feel like we're just beginning. So, everything's in beta mode for us. So we're always constantly looking for improvement. But yeah, I mean, I got a 130 that I got to bounce off to. But if anyone does ever have any questions, reach out to me either on the Facebook group or wherever. I mean, happy to help. So, So we're, I don't know if you can see my screen, but we're on your real producer screenshot here. From a fundamental standpoint, guys, he didn't take the celebrity marketing approach. He built a brand, which I typically tell people it's easier to build celebrity marketing and then debrand and brand later. Real quick, was that harder than what you thought? It didn't look that hard, but what's the one lesson to current day over? Because I mean, I went and looked at the post when it's only been, a couple years, but what's been your biggest lesson that you have learned? Not like maybe victory or anything, because things have been going your way, right things, right order. And I know you've had setbacks, but from everybody watching, it's definitely win after win. But what's your one thing where it's like, man, I wish I would have known that, or man, I wish I would have done that differently? I mean, I think the biggest thing is just kind of focusing on the conversations. I mean, I think, at some points, you kind of get away from that because you're growing so quickly, and it's easy to like forget that's the key part of the business. But I think just like focus, like keep getting better on doing the role plays, and keeping all that, and just constantly like throwing objections out to your agents and seeing how they handle them, and going through their leads when they're struggling, and seeing like, why are they failing? I think just perfecting the conversation piece is really the most important part of real estate. And that's the one thing that technology can't take away from us. I mean, it's going to be a long time before AI ever can, rebuttal objections and stuff like that at the same level a human can. So, because they don't feel emotions and they don't feel that. So, just focusing on the conversation piece and focusing on the client's motivation, and just keep that always in focus on that. Because I mean, I feel like there's times I've gotten away from that, and the numbers have shown that. It's like there's nothing else that changed except for the focus on the conversation piece.
So that would be it. And it happens to all of us. And it's natural because you're learning how to become a new boss, a new team leader, manage staff, run sales meetings now. Like, you took on a lot, dude, and you've grown a lot personally. And so that's awesome feedback. If you take your eye off of the quality of the conversation, the sales drop, because that's where it's at. That authenticity to that conversation, instead of looking at it transactional, and your people feel it. If your people feel it, then that's how it feels to the consumer. But it's like, if there's a focus on that, your ISAs, your team, everybody with client experience feels it, and the client feels it, and then it improves it again. I love it, man.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right, brother. Well, get to your appointment,
Right.
man. I appreciate
Right.
it. Yep.
Yep. Talk to you later. Bye.
Later. All right, guys. What's up? What's up? So, man, I'm just gonna save some of this other stuff. So, I mean, we kind of, what time is it? We ended up running. Yeah, I thought we could end up running, almost 2 hours today, but I got probably about another hour or so of content. And it's like the people on here. What's up, Jason? Trying to see who's left on here. What's up, Susan, Tony? What's up, Gary? Steve, what's up? Jay-Z, what's up? Alicia, what's up? Guys, hopefully you guys appreciated that and the climb. But let me see if there's any questions here. This is different format. Steve said, I don't think you can hear him. No, Steve, sorry, I couldn't. And I just saw that your question here. I can give you his number, and I'm sure you can give him a buzz. But guys, I'm going to save the rest, for later, because we could end up having another Monday mastermind series with a follow-up here soon with this. So I appreciate you guys. I'll catch up with you guys later. Make it a great day. Just do it. Is out or not, or we become replaced like travel brokers, you can up and take these models that we built and how we run them in any sales with any product or service, really, as long as you can control the conversion piece to it. When